Only images, monuments, mummies, and artifacts from the Greek era remain today. We didn't have anything written, but that was pretty incompatible with knowing everything about this time. People have changed the situation up to this point, and we now have proper writing or hieroglyphs. Yes, folks, and we will now conduct a thorough investigation into everything. The Rosetta Stone, unearthed by a French military expedition in mid July 1799 while building a fort in Rashid, includes inscriptions written in Egyptian hieroglyphs, Demotic, and Ancient Greek. Experts were able to translate the other two unidentified scripts, which contained the same information, because ancient Greek had already been decoded at the time the Rosetta Stone was found. It was discovered that the inscription on the stone was an edict issued during Ptolemy the Fifth's rule in 196 BC. Additional ancient Egyptian literature could be translated and comprehended after the two Egyptian characters, hieroglyphs and demotic, were deciphered. When the French submitted to an Ottoman and British army, the stone was transported to Britain and is now kept in the British Museum. Delivered by King George III, is inscribed on the right side of the Rosetta Stone, while taken in Egypt by the British Army in 1801 is inscribed on the left. Egypt has asked the British government to return the stone to it. The Rosetta Stone weighs about 1,680 pounds, measures 44 inches tall by 30 inches wide, and has a rough, unpolished backside, which suggests that it was meant to be displayed with the back against a wall. Geologists Andrew Middleton and Dietrich Klemm wrote in the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology in 2003 that the stone is a granodorite, which is similar in composition to the so-called black granite from Aswan, but has a slightly finer grain than most specimens of that rock. According to Middleton and Clem, the granite block that was used to create the Rosetta Stone was probably taken from Ptolemaic quarrying locations south of Aswan. Documents a decree, the language of an agreement reached collaboratively by a monarch and an ancient Egyptian clergy synod. According to the inscription on the stone, a group of Egyptian priests chose to anoint Ptolemy the Fifth, king of Egypt, and declare him a deity in exchange for tax breaks for temples and clergy. According to the stone, this decree should be positioned next to the monarch statue in temples all over Egypt and carved in Greek, religious, and document writing on a stele of a firm stone. Only a few priests used hieroglyphic writing, which was referred to as holy writing in this context. By 196 BC, only professional priests could decipher hieroglyphs, which had been used for nearly 3,000 years. In his book, The Rosetta Stone, British Museum curator Richard Parkinson claimed that the ancient language engraved in them had been extinct for many generations. By 196 BC, the Egyptians were using the Demotic script more frequently, but the Greek language, which had been imported from Greece by the Ptolemaic dynasty rulers, was gradually gaining popularity in Egypt. The Macedonian Ptolemy's Pas Soter, a commander under Alexander the Great, is the ancestor of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Alexander subjugated Egypt in 332 BC and incorporated it into his empire. After Alexander's death, his empire quickly fell apart, and Ptolemy the Third Soter's armies seized power in Egypt. According to Parkinson, it is likely that the markings on the Rosetta Stone were initially filled with a light red pigment based on what is still visible. Early on in its museum life, white chalk was used to fill in the incised markings to make the lettering easier to read, according to Parkinson. The Rosetta Stone was a fragment of a much larger stele that had previously been on display in a temple, most likely in the ancient Egyptian city of Sais, rather than being found at Rashid, ancient Rosetta. According to Ray's book, the original stone was significantly higher than it is today. The ruler and the gods of the temple where it was located would have been depicted in its highest register. Ray is no longer available. The hieroglyphic writing that made up its second register is now reduced to just one third. Greek and Demotic writing fragments are also absent. According to Parkinson, the Rosetta Stone used to stand 59 inches tall. Parkinson asserted that because Rashid, ancient Rosetta, is close to the sea, the Rosetta Stone would not have been placed there. According to Parkinson, the ground upon which that coastal town was built was created as a result of later sedimentation, rather than existing at the time of its cutting. The stele was most likely constructed farther inland at a more ancient site than Rashid, possibly the neighboring ancient city of Sais. The Rosetta Stone probably stood in the Say temple complex for thousands of years, transported to Rashid as quarry rock, and was mined decades after the Rosetta Stone was built. The use of Egyptian hieroglyphs and demotics was rendered obsolete in the 5th century. The Rosetta Stone was found by a French military expedition while Fort Saint Julien was being constructed. According to Parkinson, the precise spot of discovery appears to have been inside the outer wall, under what is now an interior turret. Pierre-Francois Xavier Bouchard, a 23-year-old French engineering officer, is said to have made the discovery. According to Parkinson, Bouchard immediately identified it as a stele with 3 characters engraved on it. Researchers found that the precise discovery date is unknown. It appears that the Rosetta Stone was found in the middle of July 1799, right before the July 25th ground battle of Abukir. According to Parkinson, Napoleon sent a group of scholars, scientists, and artists to Egypt to research and document the nation's natural history and populace. The result of their labor was the magnificent Description de l'Egypte, which was published in the years following the French retreat and included volumes on antiquities, the current state of the land, and its natural history. Reproductions of the inscriptions were sent to Paris, according to Parkinson, who noted that word of the Rosetta Stone's discovery spread quickly. According to Ray, 2 researchers, Thomas Young and Jean-François Champollion, are credited with deciphering the Demotic and Egyptian hieroglyphic writings, even though Ackerblad made important discoveries about the Rosetta Stone as early as 1802. Young was a polymath who made discoveries in languages, physics, navigation, anatomy, optics, mechanics, and acoustics. At the time the Rosetta Stone was discovered, Young was a renowned scientist who had received numerous patents. In contrast, Ray said Champollion was a young up-and-coming Egyptologist looking to make a name for himself in his field. Young focused his efforts on learning the Demotic script, the cursive form of Egyptian hieroglyphs, according to Ray. Although many scholars thought hieroglyphs were more symbolic, they were aware that the Demotic writing contained letters and sounds that could be used to create an alphabet. Young figured out that the hieroglyphic symbols meant Ptolemy and that they were letters and sounds, which are the fundamental units of an alphabet. Ray noted that Young continued to hold the view that hieroglyphs were primarily symbolic when discussing Egyptian topics, and that they only represented an alphabet when Greek or foreign words were used. In 1819, Young published what we can consider state-of-the-art in an article in the Encyclopedia Britannica that offered equivalency for 218 demotic words and 200 hieroglyphic groups. Concludes the video. Please share your thoughts about the video in the comment section. Give it a like and tell your friends about it. Additionally, to view more incredible videos like this one, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you for viewing.